From news and views, issues and opportunities, we'll have in-depth conversations with decision makers to find out what they know and what they think. I'm Rico Hizon, inviting you to join in this special edition of The Exchange in recognition of our overseas Filipinos. This OFW month, we pay tribute to our heroes, braving risks away from their families as they provide a better life for those left behind. Some taking jobs outside their profession, some thriving with what they know, and some rising from the ranks and breaking the glass ceiling for expatriates. Regardless of their work, they will always be a pillar of our economy. They ask for nothing except to see the fruit of their labor sooner than later. Amid lingering threats of the COVID-19 pandemic, the government is pulling out all the stops to make sure their homecoming is safe this holiday season. It will be the second Christmas that a number of our kababayans overseas may again miss reuniting with loved ones because of travel restrictions. Many of them as well have returned home after their employments were affected by this ongoing pandemic. What is the situation of our fellow Filipinos abroad, and how is our government helping those who have returned? Let's now have an exchange with Overseas Workers Welfare Administration Chief Hans Takdak. Sir Hans, maraming salamat po for joining us. More than 800,000 overseas Filipino workers have been repatriated dahil sa pandemya since last year. Ilan na po ang OFWs ang tinulungan na ng ating gobyerno sa mga nawala ng trabaho dahil dito sa pandemya?
Doon sa mga tulong na naibigay, of course, yung tulong ay hindi nahihinto sa kanilang pag-uwi. Meron tayong una, yung DOLE ACA program, yung financial assistance sa pinasinayaan ni Secretary Bello, 10,000 pesos financial assistance, 540,000 ho ang napiyayaan dito. That's to a tune of 5.4 billion pesos. Ngayon, naghihintay na lang po tayo ng karagdagang pondo mula sa Kongreso. Meron din po tayong livelihood. Around 50,000 po ang napiyayaan natin ng livelihood. Hindi po lahat naman kasi ay nababagay sa pangkabuhayan o pagtatayo ng negosyo. 50,000 na nabigyan natin ng either micro-startup or group livelihood project. And then meron tayong higit kumulang na mga halos 100,000 na mga bagong scholars na nabigyan natin ng pag-asa, lalo na yung collegiate level scholars. Dumoble pa nga po ang collegiate level scholars natin.
But Sir Hans, marami rin sa ating mga returning OFWs na nagsasabi, may mga programa nga ang gobyerno pero ang daming requirements at papeles ang kailangan bago makatanggap ng tulong.
Well, meron tayong mga, actually, sa tingin ko nga ay medyo pinadali pa in the sense that half, if not the entire process, yung DOLE ACA, for instance, is an electronic process. Electronic system, electronic application, electronic evaluation, electronic releasing of the benefits. Pero yun lang naghihintay pa tayo ng pondo mula sa Kongreso. Same is true with the scholarship program which I just mentioned, yung Tabang OFW. It's an entirely electronic process. Ngayon, dun sa pagninegosyo, meron talaga tayong mga hakbang na tulad ng interview, tulad ng pagsumite ng business plan na payak lang naman, simple lang naman ang required, meron din site inspection to make sure na honest to goodness yung negosyo na itatayo ng ating kababayan. Other than that, wala ho tayong nakikitang matinding requirements. Siguro, ang suggestion ko na lang po kung merong mga may karainan tungkol sa pangangailangan na mabigyan ng benepisyo, ay nandyan po yung hotline natin, 1348. At na siya naman din po pinabilis din natin. Nag-engage tayo ng business process outsourcing firm to help us dito sa 1348 hotline. Kaya idulog na lang po doon at tutulong tayo.
Sir Hans, may tanong po si Gladys sa mga problema ng ating mga OFW sa ibang bansa.
Kapag may mga problema sila, halimbawa hindi napapasahod ng tama, kapag may mga physical na pananakit sa mga amo, doon dapat kumikilos yung mga big gobyerno para masabi natin, para hindi mag-alala yung mga pamilya nila na walang ginagawa yung gobyerno.
Ayan, marami rin problema, no? Even though marami tayong OFWs sending home billions of dollars into the Philippine economy, they're also experiencing a lot of issues in their respective jobs. So, Sir Hans, paano natutugunan ng ating mga opisyal dito and overseas ang mga problema ng ating mga overseas Filipino workers?
Okay. Doon naman sa aspeto ng welfare cases, no, yung nabanggit nung nagkomentaryo, ay higit kumulang mga 120,000 cases ang hinandle ng ating mga polos na naservisyohan yung mga nangailangan ng tulong for a variety of reasons. For instance, merong humihingi ng payo tungkol sa sitwasyon niya sa trabaho, merong kailangang bawiin yung sahod na hindi nabigay sa kanya, merong kailangang tulungan sa asunto kung talagang nagmamatigas yung employer, dinadala sa labor court ng host country. So, samot-sari, merong kailangan sagutin. Yung mga unfortunately sinaktan ng amo o na yung kanilang employer, ay meron din tayong rescue and sheltering efforts na isagawa. Merong mga polo shelters, no? Filipino Overseas Labor Office shelters ang dole sa 37 polos all around the world. So, may continuing efforts, Sir Rico. And of course, it cannot be denied that many more need help, no? So,
Right.
I would suggest, yun nga, yung 1348 hotline natin, lalo na sa mga pamilya na nandito dito sa Pilipinas. At ang sarili-sariling mga polo, meron din kanya-kanyang mga hotlines. Dumulog po sa website o Facebook pages ng Philippine Overseas Labor Offices natin on-site para humingi ng tulong.
Ang overseas Filipino workers, no, are all over the world in so many countries. At ngayon, dumadami na naman ng mga red-listed nations dahil sa banta ng bagong Omicron variant. May mga kababayan po ba tayo na stranded na naman at hindi makauwi dahil sa bagong restrictions? At ano pong tulong ang binibigay sa kanila?
For the green and yellow countries, ang protocol natin ngayon is hotel quarantine facility upon arrival. Required na ngayon ng PCR test at the point of departure, 72 hours prior to departure. On the 5th day of quarantine, kung fully vaccinated, may PCR test at makakauwi na for home quarantine. Kung hindi fully vaccinated, on the 7th day po ang swab testing at makakauwi na kung negative. Ngayon, sa red list na nabanggit nyo, Sir Rico, there are 14 countries in the red list. And dun sa 14 countries, yun nga, merong travel ban, pero pwede magsagawa ng mass repatriation effort ang government, tayo, and then yung commercial flights ay pwede rin magsagawa ng tinatawag na special commercial flights or bayanihan flights as we call them. Magsasagawa po tayo in coordination with DFA and Department of Transport ng mga repatriation flights or bayanihan flights coming from those countries in the red list, most especially yung maraming OFWs.
Thank you so much for this OFW exchange, OWA Administrator Hans Kakdak. And when we come back on the exchange where your business is our business, this Christmas, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas urges Filipinos to tap their digital wallets for holiday gifts. And for those interested in setting up a business abroad, we'll have a chat with our kababayans thriving overseas. Keep it right here on CNN Philippines. News you can use, news you can trust. Glad you're staying with us right here on The Exchange, where your business is our business. I'm Rico Hizon. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas is encouraging the public to shift to cashless transactions to minimize contact this holiday season. Central Bank Governor Benjamin Jokno says digital wallets can keep our gift-giving tradition alive while staying safe. He also assures the public that security measures are in place against possible scams. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas wants 50% of financial transactions done online by 2023. Filipinos know too well how to master their craft, whether in business, science, or the arts. Tonight, we talk to two of our kababayans who have made a name for themselves and are managing their own businesses in Singapore and in London. Let's now have an exchange with Ernest Estrella, General Manager of UMAC Express Cargo in Singapore, and Oliver Calma, Founder and Managing Director of BC Remit in London. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Ernie, let me start off with you. During this holiday season, despite the pandemic, are our kababayans in Singapore filling up their balikbayan boxes to send home to their relatives with Christmas gifts?
First of all, thank you for having me in your multi-awarded program. Yes, indeed. Even at the height of the pandemic, our kababayan in Singapore are busy packing their boxes containing their Christmas gifts to their loved ones in the Philippines. That kept us very busy for the last 3 months and is still ongoing as I speak. That is good for the business and at the same time, enhancing the holiday mood of those receiving the gifts in the Philippines. As a cargo forwarding balikbayan bags company, we are committed to deliver those boxes to their loved ones in the Philippines just in time for Christmas.
The culture and the tradition of sending home balikbayan boxes continues, Ernie. What about you, Oliver, in London? BC Remit is a fintech remittance service that our kababayans in London can use to send home money home to their loved ones. Are more of them just using their smartphone apps for the Christmas aguinaldos?
Yeah. First of all, Rico, thank you for inviting me as well. Yeah, for sure. Especially in light of the pandemic, a lot of our kababayans are using our mobile app and our website. As you know, we're mainly online. So because of the pandemic, we were able to provide not just a cheaper way and a faster way to send their precious remittances back home, but also in light of the pandemic, a safer one as well. So yeah, we've seen quite a tremendous growth, especially since the pandemic. And that trend continues.
Ernie, we applaud your success in Singapore. You've lived and worked there for more than 20 years. What does it take to be a successful Filipino executive and entrepreneur overseas?
Honestly, Rico, I never think that I am successful. If I am, it does not go to my head. I am a Filipino working overseas as a foreign talent in the host country. Before my stint in Singapore, I was in the Middle East and North America. But the last leg of my status as foreign talent is in Singapore, being a finance executive at a multinational company. Being a professional in my field, I discharge my duties and responsibilities based on the highest standard and best industry practice. That standard is not tagged to a specific nationality. But when I tell them that I am from the Philippines, they're happy to know that the Filipinos are at par with the best in the world.
Absolutely, bar none. We are indeed very talented and continue to shine on the world stage. And Oliver, living and managing a fintech business in the UK, what are the risks and the rewards?
Well, I think the risk is because technology moves fast. You also have to move fast. But I think if for me, what we're doing is a passion of mine. So as long as you like what you're doing, you learn fast. And I echo what my colleague said earlier. I think we Filipinos are quite smart, and we can match it with the best of the world if we dare to. Yeah.
And Oliver, how easy is it to send money to our loved ones here in the Philippines from anywhere in the world using fintech and your smart app?
Yeah. So by using our mobile app, our kababayans can literally send their money in minutes. So when they, as you can see in the video, they can actually sign up in literally a minute or two and send that vital transaction to to their loved ones back home in a minute or two as well. So literally the funds are delivered to either to their beneficiaries' bank account or cash pickup. And recently we also added already e-wallets as they are becoming popular in the Philippines. So these funds are made available to their beneficiaries, to their family members, literally in minutes.
Literally in minutes, and very simple steps to send your pounds, converting it into pesos for your loved ones in the Philippines. And Ernie, what is your advice for Filipinos who want to live overseas and set up their own business?
My advice is to go, live and work overseas when opportunity arises. But save money from the earnings and invest for the future that will give you a greater latitude for total financial freedom and aspire to become part of a wealthy society.
And Oliver, you were a trailblazer for Filipinos, no, in the fintech industry, especially in Europe. What can Europeans learn from the Filipino work ethic?
That's a very good question. I think it's, aside from the hard work, it's our dedication and, the service that we provide to our customers, in general. So I think that's one thing that Europeans can learn from us. It's that level of service and dedication that we provide.
Thank you so much for this exchange, and maraming salamat to both of you for being our modern day heroes. Ernest Estrella in Singapore and Oliver Calma in London. And still ahead on the exchange, where your business is our business. Despite a successful career overseas, what made one bank executive choose home? Ramon Hocson, Chief Operating Officer of the Bank of the Philippine Islands, joins us to tell his story. You're watching CNN Philippines. News you can use. News you can trust. Glad you're staying with us right here on The Exchange, where your business is our business. I'm Rico Hizon. Filipinos are always world-class, and that holds true in what they do and where they go. Throughout this program, we've been honoring our kababayans, toiling thousands of kilometers away to support their families. Now, we speak with someone who continues to blaze trails at home. Joining us now is Ramon Hocson, former OFW and now Chief Operating Officer of Bank of the Philippine Islands. Mon, thank you so much for joining us. You've lived and worked overseas close to 20 years with IBM, based in Singapore and the Czech Republic. What made you decide that it was time to come home?
Well, for me, Rico, it was about, every Filipino that works abroad, I think, always has a hankering to go home eventually. It's about trying to give back to the place that you grew up in. It's also about, contributing to the industries here. So for me, it came to that point where I said that probably, it's time to go home. It's time to also contribute in my own small way, right, to growing the industries here in the Philippines.
I think you just know, when it's time to come home. What best practices, Mon, did you pack in your luggage from overseas and brought back to the Philippines and adopted in the operations of BPI?
I think my stint abroad, and very much like you, Rico, we were together. Very much so, the exposure to different cultures allows you to hone your management style. You become more adept at dealing with people, trying to draw people out or trying to be assertive. The Filipino culture has always been one of, passive, right? But per my stints abroad, I learned to be more assertive, and I learned to be more clear in my communications. I learned that in order to manage properly, especially in a global setting, you have to have focus, you have to have clarity, and then you need to set the tone. So for me, that's what I carried back here. It's the ability to do straight talk.
And of course, I myself, I was overseas Filipino worker for 25 years. You close to 20 years. Are more Filipino talents attracted to coming home to the country, Mon, and being closer to family? Or are most of them just wanting to stay where they are right now overseas?
Rico, it's a factor also of your age, right? Well, while we were still young and we were still trying to build our careers, it's always good to stay abroad because, it widens your experiences. It essentially sharpens your management style. So for me, my stint abroad in different places help sort of mold my management style. And for me, at some point, right, at some point when I went home, I also thought about asking other Filipinos to join me. Filipinos who work abroad also have networks, and they try to invite other people to come back home. And I think that makes other Filipinos who have worked abroad more comfortable in coming back home because of that network.
You also mentioned about culture and work style. It's totally different when you're working abroad. Should OFWs who decide to come back to the Philippines change their mindset when looking for opportunities here?
I think it's a little bit of both, but my advice to OFWs when they come back to the Philippines is to be an enabler of change. There are several things in our society and maybe in the way we manage here that we can readily change for the better. Adapting to essentially best practices is one of the things that I readily embraced. Bringing things like, for example, shorter meetings, right? More pointed objectives. Inspect what you expect. Most Filipinos are passive in the way they manage people. Also, high performance culture is sort of alien here, and I think we need to bring back those practices here in the Philippines so that we can compete in the global market.
And earlier, I was talking to two very successful businessmen, Ernie Estrella in Singapore and Oliver Calma in London. And of course, us working overseas, what can foreign companies learn from the Filipino work ethic? What best practices can Filipinos bring to foreign enterprises?
There's an anecdote. I think most Filipinos who work abroad are very familiar with that, right? In the Philippines, we ignore pedestrian lanes, crossing lanes, but when we're abroad, we suddenly follow the law.
That's
right?
Correct, yes.
And it's very much so. Filipinos have a very good work ethic. And then when brought abroad and they're introduced into systems that are very structured, very disciplined, they can readily adapt. So Filipinos are very good in learning. Filipinos are very good in adapting.
And for our OFWs, Mon, who have lost their jobs overseas, I mean, not all of them are as successful as you and Ernie and Oliver. What is your message for them who are trying to find direction in their lives amid this pandemic?
You just keep on trying. I think, Rico. I remember harken back to the days when you were just thrown to a new environment. You're new in that environment. Like you and I, when we were new in Singapore, we're finding our way, right? Just harken back to those days, and then think about what made you successful then. And I think there are several key ingredients there. You keep on learning, you keep on reinventing yourself, right? And I think if they persevere in doing that, they will be successful.
Thank you so much for this homecoming exchange and for your service to the Filipino. Ramon Hocson, former OFW and now the Chief Operating Officer of the Bank of the Philippine Islands. And this is a special episode of The Exchange for our kababayans overseas. I'm Rico Hizon. Thanks for watching CNN Philippines. News you can use. News you can trust.